Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's pretty unanimously praised as one of the very best American animated shows to come out of the 2000s, and debatably it's an anime. It's got dynamic characters, amazing world building, cool action sequences, expansive lore, and a unique magic system based on real-world martial arts. There's just so much that Avatar does right, and it really is a beloved franchise. One of those truly refreshing new IPs of the 2000s that now, 20 years later, seems like it's about to receive another load of new content thanks to the establishment of the new Avatar studios in 2021. And this is probably really great news for Avatar fans. Well, depending on the quality of the new stuff anyway. After all, not every piece of Avatar content is of the quality of the original show. Take for example The Last Airbender's direct follow-up The Legend of Korra, and it's still generally well liked, though it is quite a bit more divisive. And perhaps it was always doomed to be like that, since the original is so solid. It's hard to really match it. And then, of course, you've got the far other end of the spectrum. The live-action movie is a wonderful, complete joke. Everything you could possibly do wrong, they did wrong in that movie. I mean, there is no Avatar movie in Ba Sing Se. And I guess really, with that kind of history, there's always going to be that kind of worry of a doomsday scenario when it comes to more Avatar content. The franchise is still pretty well respected for the content it has currently, despite the stain of that live-action movie, but every attempt at creating something new in the Avatar universe risks tarnishing the brand just that little bit more from its golden first run. See, for example, the live-action Netflix show instead, where though it's not quite as bad as the live-action movie, this retelling still takes away many of the most integral parts of the story and just tells a weaker version of the narrative in a format that also is a little bit weaker to tell. Or, you know, you've always got the branding clash that is the live-action Blue People movies. They're pretty divisive too. Not quite sure how they connected, but they've got to be part of the broader Avatar universe somewhere, I'm sure. I mean, heck, it must do, right? They share the Avatar name, and then you got the fact that they're mastering the elements now. We have Book 1, Air, Book 2, The Way of the Water, and now we're currently getting Book 3, Fire and Ash. I mean, come on. You can't tell me they're a different franchise. Joking aside though, my channel typically likes to focus on the animated side of life, and while the successes and failures of, say, the live-action Netflix Avatar show is an interesting topic, what we're talking about is the 2D animated Avatar shows today. More specifically, we're talking about the upcoming TV show and film projects being developed by the newly formed Avatar Studios. First and foremost, let's just get started talking about the first new project for the Avatar universe, the upcoming Avatar movie, focusing on the original cast of the original show in their 20s, an Avatar: The Last Airbender Book 4, if you will. To be fair, why did they never make a Book 4? Like the 4 elements, how did they screw this up? This is by far the most highly anticipated project from this set of Avatar news, right? With the working title reported to be Aang: The Last Airbender. And of course has original series creators Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko on board as executive producers. So of course, the new film promises to be a straightforward continuation of the original show. Exactly what we want, right? If we had to do more. On the directing side of things, we have Lauren Montgomery, who was directly involved with the original show as a storyboard artist, and with Korra as well as a producer. She was also one of the showrunners on Netflix's Voltron Legendary Defender, as well as being involved in a good handful of animated superhero shows and movies. Classic, standard, good. Though the film was originally slated to release in October this year, it's been delayed until January of 2026, which probably means we'll see a trailer sometime pretty soon. That said, I'm really curious how the trailer is going to sound, as so far, no original cast members have actually been slated to return, nor have any of the other actors that took on the same voice acting role for the characters later in their lives, like through the flashbacks in Legend of Korra. Instead, we have an all-new cast featuring Eric Nam as Aang, Dion Kwan as Toph Beifong, Jessica Matten as Katara, and Roman Zaragoza as Sokka. And like on one hand, I see no issue on paper with having a fresh new cast for these characters, particularly as they are older now and the original voice actor of Aang doesn't voice act anymore, that's fine. Plus the characters themselves, they were just kids when we last saw them, you know? Still, their voices need to sound somewhat accurate as in-betweens for the original characters and their Korra flashback counterparts. Or else it's just gonna be throwing people off for sure, right? And while I know Legend of Korra stepped away from having Dante Basco provide Zuko's iconic voice and instead had the the actor lend his voice to General Iroh, I feel like Dante needs to return to voice Zuko, you know, or else things are just gonna feel off. Thankfully, at the very least, Dante always seems to be motivated to join these kind of shows and projects, so I reckon that's a given, but who knows. And though notably the actor of Sokka is still around doing their own thing, I don't think it's necessarily mandatory on their front to come back to something that they, you know, have obviously moved on from. It is kind of strange to devote yourself to a task like this without having the entire living original cast returning, especially considering they are all themselves old enough to voice mid-20s characters. Maybe it's because they're just too old now? I'm not really sure. Probably just a motivation thing. This is Nickelodeon we're talking about here. Either way, it's not a choice I necessarily hate, but just a decision that needs to be done tactically to match with the quality of the original show, so I hope the actors they do have are actually up to par. Additionally, Dave Bautista has been cast as the villain of the film. I mean, we had Mark Hamill in the original show, and Steve Blum, Henry Rollins, and Zelda Williams in Korra, so this will make sense to me. Getting a famous personality for the villain just kind of seems to be the thing that Avatar tends to do, and honestly, it's probably one of the better examples of celebrity integration. It's all stepped up on merit and acting performance, and it's not in the way of the protagonist mainline characters. Now, this new movie is being developed by Paramount Animation and Nickelodeon Animation alongside Flying Bark Productions, and it's supposedly featuring a mix of 2D and 3D animated elements. Likely in the same way the original two shows blended 3D and 2D too. Flying Bark in particular has notably worked on projects such as Marvel's What If on Disney+, as well as Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur, Wendell and Wild, 200% Wolf, and then Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So, you know, they're relevant in the industry, doing their thing in the current day. Now, this is about all we know about the movie at the moment, at least until some upcoming trailer comes up, which I'll be sure to analyze on the day. That being said, this is not the only new project being announced by Avatar Studios, with it being a Nickelodeon department. Of course, they're going to SpongeBob milk the heck out of this franchise. Sometimes that's a good thing. I guess there's a demand for it at least. In addition to this feature film, Avatar 7 Havens is also being developed by original series creators, what do you know, Michael DiMartino and Brian Konietzko. This time with the two of them directly involved as the showrunners. The show, slated to run for 2 seasons at least, was heavily leaked, and surprise, surprise, it seems like a lot of these leaks are true. So let's go into it a bit. Set after The Legend of Korra, this show takes place in a version of the world of Avatar that has been completely reformed following a great cataclysm. The spirit world and real world have been greatly damaged, and all of humanity that remains lives in the titular 7 Havens, including our new earthbender Avatar and their twin. Now, hunted by spirits and humans alike who believe that the Avatar is to be the world's destroyer, our new Avatar must discover how to reconnect with the Avatar cycle and save the world. And honestly, this plot could be really cool. Hey there you can make it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you want to see more animated movie news. And if this video does well, we'll do more Avatar stuff. I love Avatar, but it is 2D. We'll see how it works on the channel. Anyway, back to the second half of Avatar news. I'd love to see how technology advances from Korra, and I think with the Avatar cycle broken in that show, Korra being the only Avatar to advise our new hero would be a spectacular choice, especially if this show focuses in on somehow repairing the Avatar cycle after Korra's kaiju battle. And in fact, to me as well, that seems like the easiest, most fan-satisfactory plotline you could follow. I love the theory that every Avatar is trying to fix the past Avatar's biggest regret, and Korra's would be being severed from past lives. Therefore, having an arc about these two twins trying to basically reach Aang and beyond is just simple, easy fan service, and you can connect it to the mid-20s actor version of Aang if you really want to. Like, it writes itself in a way that feels satisfying for the most debilitating part of Legend of Korra from a fan perspective, you know? I don't hate that they did it, but, you know, it still feels bad. Aang is gone, and I'm very sad. You know what I mean? Now, speaking of Korra's kaiju battle, the Avatar in this show has a twin. And immediately, a thought that came to my mind was, are they trying maybe to do something with the Dark Avatar set up from the season 2 of Korra? Now, that season wasn't exactly well liked when the show came out, but I could still see elements of the series' cosmology from that season having ramifications here. In that season, the light spirit Rava was revealed to have merged with a human a long time ago, creating the first Avatar. Its equal and opposite half, Vaatu, then merged with a human in Korra's time to create a Dark Avatar, but was defeated by Korra. Now, the Dark Avatar cycle was supposedly ended before it would begin, but since the Dark Spirit Vaatu is supposed to reincarnate in Rava, perhaps this is why we see the twins together in this show. One is the Avatar of Light, and one is unfortunately the Avatar of Darkness, and would lead into the idea that the humans believe the Avatar would bring a cataclysm, because one of them literally will for the prophecy of the Dark Avatar. Of course, I have no idea, and the showrunners haven't said anything to this effect, but that is the fan theory I have in my head up to this point. And I guess depending on the real reception of this show, I'll be curious to see where they go further from here. Obviously, they can just keep going forwards in time for the next reincarnate of the Avatar. Makes perfect sense, and we're reaching a point of technology really keeping up. I mean, a proper cyberpunk Avatar world I'd be into, but I also wouldn't be surprised if, after some, negative receptions, even Korra itself was quite, starkly modern in the 1920s kind of way. It'd be interesting, I think, at least if they also went backwards, even beyond, the ones we've heard of, Kyoshi and all that, just to go back to the pseudo-medieval time of Aang's experience, just because it's more, invigorating in a way, even though they wouldn't be able to invent new things because they're not going forwards anymore. I'd be up for another classic take it back to its roots show, or maybe that's just the Gen 1 urge all of us fans have for whatever franchise we get into. Now, that's all at least for official news on this new show. But there's a bit more unconfirmed rumors out there that I do kind of want to talk about. There's not much else to jump on. Haven't exactly got footage, have I? That being said, of course, take this all with a grain of salt. So, supposedly, Studio Mir is set to return to animate this, and they worked previously on both The Legend of Korra and Voltron Legendary Defender, so it makes sense. Secondly, supposedly the Avatar will be named Parvi and her twin sister Nisha, and they will both be 9 years old with their own animal guides, as every Avatar gets. Supposedly, Nisha will be raised to a life full of privilege by the White Lotus, and Parvi will grow up on the streets. The original 4 nations are reportedly gone, and neither sister knows who the true Avatar is. Nisha is more aggressive and believes she is the true Avatar, and Parvi is more passive and believes that she is the true Avatar. So given this, I think the Dark Avatar theory just might make the most sense here. Either way, there's a lot of mysteries to unravel. And of course, there's always room for red flags and concerns, especially this early days. I mean, one of the big ones for me is that I hope that this new show is pretty accessible to new fans just getting into the franchise. A common problem with long-running series like this that happen to have a ton of established lore is sometimes a need for the series to both dial into that lore to please existing fans, whilst also not trying to alienate new fans by having the series be unexplainable without an understanding of prior lore. And I worry that both the new movie and the TV show may fall into this trap, considering how much Avatar lore has been expanded in the books and the comics since the release of the original show and its follow-up. Plus, there's then the element of always trying to add more into a show, dialing up in the progress. Like, it's cool and all that we got metal bending, and then in Korra we got lava bending, but I don't want 17 different types of bending just in the nation of air just because we're on, the next series over. But at the same time, if you stray too far away from the lore that is established, and the audience that was once loyal and stuck with each release will not only feel betrayed by that fact, but may very well be vocal about it. Stick too close to it without explaining things, and you will alienate not only new fans, but also the fans who casually watched the show before but never really got onto the side material, or at least not much of it, I would wager that though this is the largest part of the fan base, it is important to take care to not hurt either side with a new project. It's always the problems you're gonna have with this kind of prompt. Either way, these new bits of animated content are both slated to debut in the next few years, and they are something that I've seen Avatar fans in general be happy about. And as much as I'm a fan of the Avatar world and characters, I couldn't help but be most cautiously optimistic about the news. I just worry that, like a lot of other franchises in the streaming era, a drastic expansion of content could bloat out the franchise and take away the quality that made it truly exceptional in exchange for quantity, Then again, the 2 projects we know are happening for certain do sound promising. And they've got the original creators on board. It's not exactly the Netflix show. The major film being delayed exactly the way it was, with a set release date given not too far off from the original, might actually be a good sign that it's being treated seriously too. Instead of this delay signaling that there's production trouble, as delays often do, it feels to be more like it's the result of the exact opposite. It's quality assurance. It's Avatar Studios taking a little extra time to make sure a project is finished exactly in the state it needs to be could very well be a great sign for the future. At the end of the day, the studio was created because of the mass resurgence of popularity for Avatar on Netflix and Paramount, and it's super important that they just get off on the right foot here, you know? Otherwise, they risk ending up in the same state like Star Wars is right now, or the MCU, you know? Yikes. Either way, I do want to see more Avatar content, and there's certainly going to be more. As we say, this is Nickelodeon, this is what they do. And it's nice that they're finally not, you know, actively sabotaging a show as it's coming out like Legend of Korra. I just hope it's good, man. But then again, if it is terrible, oh well, at least I'll get a good laugh of it breaking down everything that went wrong. When it comes to Avatar, it wouldn't even be the first time. Or the second. Anyway, on that note, I should finally end things off there. That is at least all the general updates and news we have so far on upcoming Avatar stuff. I might do more, depending, we'll see. This is 2D stuff. 2D doesn't usually do well on the channel, unless it's SpongeBob for some reason. We'll work it out. My name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video, and I shall see you all in a little bit. Bye-bye!